The E-Flite FW-190 Focke-Wulf is the perfect airplane for someone looking to build confidence who wants to work their way towards advanced warbirds, although there are some questionable characteristics to be aware of. This is a fun yet challenging warbird that can up your stick and rudder skills. So, what's challenging about it? First up, it has a higher wing loading than most general-purpose park flyers, but that's the nature of flying a warbird. If you don't respect the sticks, it can and will bite you.
Oh, yeah.
Until you get comfortable with this plane, we recommend keeping those base to final turns shallow and keeping your nose down and approach speed up to start out. Ever been on a first date with a picky eater? The FW-190 is just that when it comes to the type of runway surface it prefers for specific types of landings. If you plan on flying early morning when the grass is wet and sticky and/or hasn't been mowed in a bit, we strongly recommend sticking to 3-point landings. Otherwise, you could risk getting ghosted for your would-be second date. We were ghosted. It's for this reason that we don't advise someone go out and buy this as their first plane, but if you're looking to get a plane that'll serve as a warm-up before you buy your first nicer balsa warbird, the E-Flite FW-190 suits that mission perfectly. It teaches you lessons that are best taught on a foamy instead of a $2,000 warbird. Rounding out too early, followed by a subsequent high flare for a 3-point, can be a catastrophic event on a balsa model. With foam though, a simple rig glue will have you back flying that same day. It should be noted that after some research, we learned that some folks had issues with their landing gear eventually punching through the wing after landing their models like a bag of hammers. Always remember, there's no shame in going around. One of our favorite things about this plane is the impressive flight times. Even being a little more aggressive with the throttle, we have our timer set to 10 minutes and still land at over 3.8 volts per cell. This makes it a great landing practice ship because you can do non-stop touch and goes for a long time, or you could do low passes showing off the optional included fixed drop tank. Now, let's take a closer look at wheel landings with the E-Flite FW-190. Start out by lowering your scale split flaps to the landing position. Ever tried to land on a hard surface runway with basketballs as tires? That's the best analogy we can give for the stock tires on this bird. She much prefers to return to the air with a bounce than to settle onto the runway, unless if you perfectly time applying some forward pressure the second the means touch. It took us a while to be able to comfortably and consistently have bounce-free wheel landings and get the timing right, but the reward was worth the wait. We also had to try out our favorite one-wheel touch-and-goes, too. One thing that helped us out the most was adding some expo on the elevator and ailerons and even more expo on the rudder to prevent PIO on the landing rollout that generally otherwise led to a ground loop. We do want to mention that doing wheel landings on grass with the stock tires is much less of a hassle. If you feel that you just can't get wheel landings down on hard surfaces, E-Flite does optionally sell softer tires. We haven't tested them ourselves, but the awesome folks on our C group seem to universally agree that the softer tires are a dramatic improvement. While we're on the ground, let's take a quick look at the assembly and some pros and cons to the airplane. The plane went together easily. No glue is required, and it was a great touch to have Allen head screws all around for the airplane. E-Flite also designed it with minimal field assembly time required, which means you won't be fumbling through noodles of servo extensions looking for labels to plug in everything correctly. It comes with a 3-piece swing using mechanical snapping units on each wingtip. These are a little tricky to install and uninstall without giving the bird hanger rash, so we suggest adding lubricant onto them such as Vaseline or something similar. As with most of our birds, we went ahead and adjusted the elevator and rudder to maximum mechanical deflection on the control arms and are using the bare-bones Spectrum AR620 for our receiver. For the battery, this plane is marketed as being capable of flying on anywhere from a 6S 3200 up through a 7000 mAh pack. We are using a Turnigy Graphene 6S 5000. This plane has a great battery tray. You always know that once you Velcro the battery into place on the tray, slide it into the slot in the fuselage, and feel the click, your battery is secure. Just make 100% sure that it's not going in crooked, or you could snap one of the 2 clickers that lock the tray into place. If you end up breaking up both of them, the only way to repair it is buying a new fuselage. Let's get back up in the air. The FW-190 is a pleasure to take off. The wide gear aids in ground stability and keeps the plane tracking straight with little input required from its pilot. As with most tail wheels, you can take off 2 different ways while dancing with your rudder: flying off the ground in a 3-point attitude, or bringing the tail up with slight forward pressure. If it's your first flight, we recommend taking off in a 3-point attitude and ensuring that you accelerate in ground effect before climbing out. If you're looking for a challenge, try raising the tail while accelerating on your next takeoff. As for flaps on takeoffs, your pick. Just know that as with any plane, the further down the flaps, the shorter your ground roll. Once you're in the air, it'll be hard to keep a smile off your face. The FW-190 has a presence in the sky that just can't be replicated with many other foam warbirds. It has modest power that the scale 3-bladed prop with built-in cooling fan provides, all the while sounding unique as well. The thrust to weight makes gentlemen's aerobatics more than doable. We found that we could do basic snaps, slow rolls, pseudo-rolling harriers, and just barely hold a knife edge. While doing some flight tests in slow flight inverted, we discovered that if you're careful, she's super stable in inverted high alpha, like some of the other planes we've tried this with. There's an aero engineering reason for this, so stay tuned for a deeper explanation in a further video from our engineering friend, Woody. Speaking of acro, a proper CG helps a lot with ensuring good controllability throughout all the ranges of the flight envelope. There is something a bit odd to the CG that we ended up with when we installed our 5,000 mAh pack per the manual. Alright, this is trying to balance it on the manual CG. And then this is where it actually balances. About an inch ahead of where the manual says. While we normally prefer an aft CG, hence our name, this plane flies just fine and does everything we'd want out of it with the CG where it ended up balancing, which was about 8mm forward of the furthest forward range suggested in the manual. If you're looking for a plane that'll prepare you for more challenging warbirds, the E-Flite Focke-Wulf suits that mission perfectly. It's grown to be one of our favorite aircraft because of the challenges it presents as pilot. Let us know what aircraft you'd like to see reviewed next. If you haven't already, consider hitting subscribe so you never miss out on our weekly uploads. Happy landings and bounce one on for us, basketball tire style. We'll see you next time with a new upload.